Hey guys, All the Shot here. Today we're going to take a look at Resident Evil 4, the latest port over to Steam, released for $20. Now, Resident Evil 4 is a classic game. It was originally released on the GameCube, and then on the PS2 with a few extra bells and whistles, new features and the likes, and then on the Wii, and then finally on the PC. The original PC port was actually a bit lackluster, unfortunately. They didn't do much in the way of improving the game whatsoever. It was basically a straight PS2 port, and the worst offender was they capped the frame rates at 30. So I guess Capcom decided to rectify this issue and do a proper PC release as a Steam release, and actually gave us 60 frames per second, which is nice to see. And they've also improved the texture quality quite significantly. Okay. Now, as a Steam release, it'll also come with, the Steam features that you would expect, such as achievements, trading cards, cloud saving, etc., etc. I want you guys to pay attention to the textures that you're looking at now, because right now is actually under standard definition textures. These are basically the original textures that was on the consoles, okay? So pay attention to this stuff, because we're going to do a comparison to the HD textures that will turn on in just a second. Alright, so especially take a good look at the blinds, the wood textures, Leon's face. You'll notice that it's pixelated, it's blurry, it's extremely 32 gen console, okay? Alright, so I think that's good enough as far as giving you an example of the old textures. Okay? Let's get out of here and turn on the HD textures, just so you guys can, get a decent idea for its comparison. So we go into options, video settings, texture quality, HD. It's actually pretty cool that they gave us the option of turning on the original textures for those who want to keep the classic feel of the game. And that's actually a really nice feature. I appreciate that they gave us that option. However, I'd rather play in HD if I have the option, of course. PC gamers and all that, we're all about quality and the likes. So, you look at the trees, you can actually make out, the bark and stuff, which is actually kind of cool. It's not going to be perfect, but it's certainly a huge improvement over the original, okay? So as you can see, the blinds is a lot less blurry, the textures look a lot less stretched, there's less fragmenting and artifacts. You can see the seams of the jeans and such. I hope YouTube doesn't destroy my quality.
Excuse me.
Otherwise,
Sir?
The comparison might not be all that great. But let's say YouTube does. On their website and on the Steam page, they actually posted a link of side-by-side comparisons of the standard definition textures with the new HD textures, and it's actually quite impressive how much they've improved it. So kudos to Capcom for that. This game is actually running at 60 frames per second right now as well. Now YouTube caps my frames at 30 for all videos, so you're gonna have to just take my word for it, okay? So as far as a port is concerned, I have to say is a pretty top-notch port. It's basically the PS2 port with all its bells and whistles and all that stuff, except this time around we got better frames, we got way better texture quality. You'll really see in the wood and the grain and stuff like that right now, actually, if you remember how it looked like from before. And it has all of the features of the PS2, which is basically the most final version as far as features is concerned. On the PC port, they actually gave us a couple of interesting filters as well as additional options. So let's explore that a little bit. Alright, so we have post-processing, okay, and we actually have 3 different post-processing options. I don't really have them on because I find they just kind of get in the way, but you know what? Let's explore them anyways for the sake of this video. So this is the first one. It's kind of like a black and white, like old school horror movie kind of filter. Let's see what the other ones are like, shall we? And we'll see what number 2 is. So number 2 seems to be a much more of a yellow tint, giving you sort of a country-esque kind of feel. And let's see what our final one looks like. 3, okay. So 3 is a little bit more washed out. You know, these are all sort of like horror movie inspired filter systems. But personally, I'd rather keep the crisp look. So let's put that back. So we're going to turn it off and keep it like this for the rest of the video. Just because I think it just looks better anyways. But it's nice to have the option, you know. I definitely don't, you know, I'm not going to hate on it for giving us an option that we can turn off and on. And as a PC user, more options the better, honestly. So, that's basically the port. It's actually, again, quite well done. It's stable. I haven't found any bugs. I haven't had any crashes or anything like that. And of course, the texture quality is actually quite fantastic. And the frame rates is really nice, running smooth at 60 frames a second. So yeah, good port. Now, about the game itself. What is Resident Evil 4? Well, most of you probably already know what it is, okay? But for those who don't, this was really the third-person shooter that started third-person shooters. I don't know if this is the very first third-person shooter that was ever made, but this certainly was the first third-person shooter that influenced the industry and kind of made it big and the such. After Resident Evil 4 got released, games like Gears of War and Warframe, you know, a game that I cover quite extensively on this channel, became quite popular. And that's all because of this game, pretty much, that popularized that, you know, genre and mechanic. So without this game, games like Gears of War or Warframe might not have existed, or at least would exist today in a different capacity. So, quite the influential game, I have to say. Excuse me. When this game was originally released, it was actually hailed as one of the best games ever made as well. And, remembering from my childhood, I can kind of agree with that. I played this game so much, like, a lot, okay? I love this game. I played a ton of it. I replayed it a whole pile of times and stuff like that. However, this was actually quite a departure from the Fable franchise of Resident Evil. Up until Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil was a survival horror genre that was more adventure than action. And it was played in a top-down kind of perspective for the most part, and it put a lot of emphasis on, you know, conserving ammo and your resources and health and all that stuff. Whereas this game is a lot more action-based. They gave you a lot more ammo, and mobs actually even drop ammo, which really goes to show how much of a departure it was from the game, the original franchise. But not even just that, they almost removed zombies. Like, these mobs, I guess you can call them, they're not really zombies. They're like infected, brainwashed people. Alright? So that was a huge departure, to have a Resident Evil without true zombies. However, even though I was a huge fan of the original franchise of Resident Evil, I still love the crap out of this game. And a lot of Resident Evil fans will say the same as well, which really testifies to the quality of Resident Evil 4, that the old school fans can still appreciate such a large departure. And Resident Evil 4 really is the start of what you would call the modern Resident Evil games.
How you holding up?
Games like Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. Alright. Now, this is actually kind of old. It was released in 2005, so that's almost 9 years ago, which makes me feel very old. Very old indeed. And, some of the mechanics will feel kind of antiquated, even though this game really is the start of a lot of modern gaming that we know today, especially in the third-person shooting genre. There's still a lot of like mechanics that really came from the old school Resident Evils, such as when you're shooting, you can't move. You're either aiming or you're moving. You can't do either. You can't do both. There's also no sidestepping. It's either run forward or quick turn and then run back. Your choice. They did that in this game as well as the old school Resident Evils for the sake of tension. Okay? They really wanted you to think about how you approach each combat situation. Either you're going to run or you're going to fight. You can't do both. Now, especially with Resident Evil 6, they've obviously changed that. In Resident Evil 6, you can actually sidestep, you can aim and move at the same time, and it's a lot more action-oriented, even more than Resident Evil 4. So there is that. So Resident Evil 4 really is quite the fabled game, very, very influential in the industry and to its own franchise even, as it completely changed what Resident Evil was all about after this game was released. But if you're an old school Resident Evil if you're an old school Resident Evil 4 fan, you're definitely going to enjoy this port. It's done very, very well. You know, the texture quality is actually quite amazing, and you know, the extra frame rates definitely help as well. And again, it's very, very stable, and it does keep true to the original Resident Evil 4 as well. They didn't change it so much that it's unrecognizable. Alright, all they really did was just improve the quality of the textures and frame rates, really. So, you know, not much to fear in that regard. But if you haven't played Resident Evil 4, I still recommend this game, even to today's standards in gaming, even to compared to today's modern gaming. This is still very, very fun. Even though some of the mechanics do feel antiquated, as mentioned before, it comes with its own challenges and strategies as well that you might not have experienced in today's gaming. So it's good to experience these things, especially if you're interested in game culture in general. It's really a good idea to play the games that have influenced, you know, the developers of today and the games of today. Because, you know, you're going to want to learn from history, as any history major will tell you. So I believe that's important, and not to mention, it's just generally a good game anyways. Now, if you already played the originals, should you buy this game? Is it worth your $20? It really depends on your perspective, honestly. You have to think about whether are you really going to play through it again, how long ago since you played through the original, and how much do you really want an improved texture quality, and I'm out of ammo. Oh, I got it reloaded, okay. How much do you actually care about improved frame rates and texture qualities and all that stuff? So if you don't really care that much for graphic fidelity, if you think you already had enough of Resident Evil 4, then probably save your $20. But if you're looking for an excuse to play through a great game all over again, yeah, I spent $20 on this game. In fact, I did. That's how I'm able to do this video. So there you go, guys. Resident Evil 4. Not bad at all. Generally speaking, quite a good port. The texture quality is fantastic, and you know, extra frame rates is always nice, and it's definitely one of my all-time favorite games, and still is. So I'm very happy to see it on Steam. And that will do it for this impression video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you found this informative or enjoyable in any way, please send me some love, like, share, fave, and comment. But most importantly, help me grow. Please subscribe and feed me my vegetables. Well, that's it from me, guys. Aldershot out.